Well, have you ever noticed how your fly line seems to get dingy and old and cracks in the outer coatings, and all of a sudden the welded loop breaks off or looks like it's about to break off just as you're heading out for a day's fishing? Well, my fly lines, I have to admit, I don't clean often enough, nor do I spend a lot of time doing any kind of maintenance. If I remember to wipe them down once every couple of weeks, and maybe once a year, I take them off and I give them a good scrubbing with some diluted soap, hand soap, and a tub of warm water, and give it a quick rinse and put it back on the reel. Well, I was fishing the other day, and the point is, I noticed that my fingers were sticking to the line. The line wasn't flowing through the fingertips like it should. And I said, well, something's not right here. So, in my typical fashion, I just replaced the line. And the line I replaced it with was an Orvis Superfine Hydros line in a 5 weight. And this is what I bought. And this is what it looks like spooled on the reel. It's a rather dark green. The first 30 feet is colored in this green, and the remainder of the line is in a lighter color, which I'm going to call willow. Seems to be the right term for it. The box has the colors reversed, and they made this a typographical error, and I'm sure, I hate to say it, but somebody must have just said, good enough. Well, aside from the box being wrong, the line is actually right. I did have a old Superfine line that I bought probably a dozen years ago, and it was all the same willow or white. And I don't know if the camera can see, but it's a little dingy from lack of cleaning. So I put it on the rod. Being a 5 weight, I used my 8'6" T3, and the line cast like a dream. Slipped through my fingertips. It shot through the guides and leaped in easy cast. Now, if you followed my earlier videos where I was practicing trying to take some strain off my shoulder, I tried all sorts of rods with all sorts of weight combinations and all sorts of angles on my arm, and none of them seemed to do any good. So I went back to a more compact stroke and tried not to carry as much line and tried to just shoot the line I needed for the distance. And miraculously, I did 4 or 5 days of fishing in a row and didn't have any problems. So I think getting back to basics in your casting is probably something everyone needs to do. I advise and suggest that everyone does a short video of their cast. If you can do it in slow motion, even better. That way you can see exactly where your mechanics are off. And even if you don't think your mechanics are off, guess what? The less you work and the less you practice your casting, the more it's going to be a mechanical problem that creeps in, sore shoulder, and your casting mechanics are going to be off. You're going to be throwing tailing ropes, you're going to be throwing into the trees, and your precision is going to just disappear. So that was my solution. I replaced the line. I didn't rush out to buy a new rod because, it's like everything else in fly fishing. It's never the fly, it's not the rod, it's not the line, it's always the fisherman. So this fisherman took his own advice, videotaped himself, his casting, analyzed it, had a couple of friends look at it to sit there and tell me the truth, and the truth always hurts, but I accepted it, and I watched a bunch of casting videos, and I watched some fishing videos, and I realized everyone has the same problem. The more you fish and the less you practice your casting, the worse your casting gets. You take shortcuts. You try to do things that you're not supposed to be doing. And, instead of getting a position to cast to a fish, you tend to false cast too much. You tend to try to reach out and hero cast. So I think we all can learn from a little practice.